apologies, ladies, for disturbing your fun. Garou, my friend, if you would do me the kindness of calling the hotel, telling them I'll be an hour or two late.
My pleasure, sir.
What's the sense in a boring business dinner when you have sand dunes and sunset? Am I right?
Yala nimshi minta.
Saw that, right?
You're watching The Film Fix. I'm Jonathan W. Hickman, and this is Jeff Marker. And tonight, we took in two movies, didn't we? We saw Sex and the City 2.
Right.
You saw that one. And then together, we saw Prince of Persia, The Sands of Time.
It's the newest long title that we have to make sure we get right every time.
Based on a video game, so go figure. I'm sure there are a lot of sequels, and they all have different subtitles, which are supposed to be sequels to this particular affair.
Yeah, we'll see if that's going to pan out or not.
Exactly right. Let's talk about Sex and the City 2 first.
It's been 2 years. Happy anniversary.
Me and you, just us two.
And in 2 years, amazing things can happen.
Sex and the City 2 is a whopping 2 hours and 27 minutes long, so there's a lot of story to summarize. So let me try to hit the high points without spoiling the whole thing. The trailers, unfortunately, have spoiled a lot already. So this movie's a lot like watching about 3 episodes of the series back to back. The first 45 minutes or so is mostly about how each of the girls is coping with their lives right now, mostly about how Charlotte has 2 children and is trying to deal with that. Carrie and Big have settled into sort of boring married life. Miranda isn't exactly satisfied with her job, and Samantha is trying to stay young.
As for me, Big and I were somewhere between wild sex and a baby.
I don't know which is worse.
Samantha, the baby will tire eventually.
The big fix, they think, for all of this sort of malaise that they're all going through is a big trip to Abu Dhabi.
So, Jeff, I don't know whether or not you were a fan of the television show.
I'm not exactly the target demographic.
I wouldn't think so.
I thought it was okay.
I don't think it ever really worked on regular television, where they cut out all the sex and all the language and everything.
How can you have a sex show where you have to watch what you say? It just doesn't work.
But did you like Sex in the City, too?
Well, I didn't. I wasn't crazy about it, quite honestly. But the things I found wrong with this are the things that I found flaws in the series. I don't think the voiceover narration works very much. And to step back a little bit, I don't really think either one of these movies was necessary. They pretty much covered most of these plot devices and issues during the series, and so that's my perspective. But the thing I have to quickly point out is, again, I'm really not their target. And so I watched this movie in a room full of fans of these characters and of the series, and the target audiences really liked it. There were cheers when certain surprises came on. You already know from the trailers that Liza Minnelli shows up.
Yeah.
Which very, that sort of thing very much pleases the gay demographic. And this movie is very much made for that audience.
Well, and there's nothing wrong with giving the people what they want.
Not at all.
One of the things that, the show went on, I think, until 2004, and then they finally managed to get them all back together and make the first movie in 2008. They got everybody back. There's no one really left out.
That's true.
And so, I think that there is a reason to do this, and the reason is that the fans want it, and it's going to make a ton of money.
It is going to make a ton of money, but that doesn't always mean that it's artistically responsible, or creative. And let me say something while you're pointing out the release dates.
Yeah.
Time is not exactly working on the side of these characters or the actresses.
True.
I'm having a hot flash. You're on a camel in the middle of the desert. If you're not having a hot flash, you're dead.
They make a joke and really a plot device out of the fact that Samantha is trying desperately to remain young. She's trying to turn back
the oldest
clock.
of the bunch too. So
and they all look fabulous, but they look fabulous mostly because of the clothes. and I really hope that doesn't offend anybody.
No,
but
I think it's part of it. Fashion is what leads this. This is a very big opportunity for retail to get a piece of this. You know, you think about it. I heard a statistic that said that Toy Story 3 was going to bring in $1 billion in merchandising. This film was probably going to bring in not as much as that, but a whole lot for the fashion industry.
And you know, I walked out of the theater behind a group of women, and they were talking. I thought the movie kind of dragged; it was a little bit slow. One of the women remarked that she thought that it just moved so fast, and she couldn't keep up with all of the outfits.
Well, now there
and
you
so
go.
if you watch it for the fashion, you're going to be pleased with the movie on that level.
Want to dance again?
I can think of so many other more fun things I'd rather do with you.
I heard that.
This is a movie that is going to sell very well on DVD when it comes out. People are going to add it to their collection, their Sex and the City collection. It's going to have a very big weekend, and it works internationally. That's something that's very interesting. This movie made a lot of money at the international box office, which is somewhat surprising because you figure it's sort of a domestic phenomenon.
This is the best Mirage that I've ever had.
What?
I'm talking like, I don't know, you come here, you.
Also, you know, the Carrie Bradshaw, I would take issue. I always liked her voiceover. I mean, being a writer myself, I know we both are writers, the interior monologue is something that you can't really duplicate very well in a movie without giving us the narration. And I think that it's good to have that. And, you know, maybe I'm a sap. I don't know.
I think if you rely that heavily on voiceover narration, you're cheating. Sorry. It's motion pictures. I don't want to hear that much voice.
A collection
and
of
if you
shots,
do it, and
right?
if you do it, you damn well write better dialogue than usually is used in their voiceover.
Well, now,
narration.
isn't there a couple of
But
ways?
that's just me.
But isn't there a couple of ways to look at movies? I mean, one way is to
there's-
look at the scene, okay,
Sure.
that is created, which of course you alluded to the fashion in this movie as being one of the set pieces. The other way is to look at the collection of shots, and I know the French have words for both of those things. But what's really interesting about a movie like this is that you go for a number of reasons, and story just isn't probably one of them.
No, it's definitely not one of them. And in fact, visually, it's actually quite stunning, not only because of the fashion, but then they go to Abu Dhabi on this big, you know, it's almost like the Bob Hope movies. They go on a big road trip, trying to figure out some things, and they have some slapstick along the way. And Abu Dhabi looks fantastic. In fact, I was really curious watching the last 2/3 of the movie. Did the Abu Dhabi Tourism Board fund this movie? Because it really does look fabulous. And there's a moment where you think
there's a tax incentive there. Or
well,
something. Yes.
yeah. There's a moment where I think Carrie's maybe falling out of love with New York and falling in love with Abu Dhabi. But then, of course, you know that's not going to end up true because it's called Sex and the City, our city.
Well, there's cities over there, too.
Sure, but they're not the city.
So did you get your fix from this one?
I didn't. I have pretty mixed feelings about it, honestly. I thought the first movie was just awful, and I know that many of you disagree with that. But you know, the fact is, they had a whole
liked the
series.
first one.
They had a whole series to work out whether Carrie and Big were going to get married. I don't need to watch a movie about it too. Have them get married, move on.
There
And
was
at least,
more story there to tell.
Well, at least they do move on from the wedding, the big wedding question in this one. However, there are some scenes that are just painful. You know, this is it's just shy of 2.5 hours long, and they easily could have cut an hour out of it. It would have been a much slimmer, fast-paced movie. So I didn't get my fix, and I say that knowing full well that other people are going to.
That first movie was a bit tedious, but you guys who are Sex and the City fans out there, you want to take in every drop of character, every fashion, everything. So I'm sure that that those people will get their fix.
We made a deal ages ago. Man, babies, doesn't matter. We're soulmates.
Like Jasmine and Aladdin?
Yes, sweetie, but with cocktails.
Speaking of the desert,
Yeah, right.
we've got another film called Prince of Persia, The Sands of Time, that comes out the same week as, and talk about counter-programming in the same universe, I guess.
Same location,
Same
completely different kinds of movies.
So we'll talk about that one next.